All right, welcome everyone to a Monday morning episode of the Call Sheet Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Smith, here on the Fans First Sports Network. Everybody knows this is predominantly a football show, but I have a tremendous guest with me today. When I had an opportunity to talk to Coach Jim OBrien, longtime NBA basketball coach, head coach of the Celtics, the 76ers, the Indiana Pacers, absolutely did not want to pass up that opportunity. So I want to welcome Coach into the show. Coach OBrien, welcome on.
Thanks, Coach. Good to be with you.
I really appreciate you coming on. As I mentioned, we focus predominantly on football, but I was talking to Coach before the show. There are certain characteristics that really transcend sports. Hard work, effort, toughness, player development, etc. We're going to get into all of that with Coach throughout his extensive coaching career. Before we do that, Coach, tell us a little bit about your biography. I know it's long. You don't have to go through all of it, but run us through your career real quick.
Well, I 2 summers ago, for my wife's birthday, I gave her a plaque with all of our addresses on it, and there are 20 of them.
Okay.
And we've lived in 12 states, and when I graduated from St. Joe's University, I had 5 jobs in 5 years in 5 different states. So I moved all around, but some of the highlights you mentioned about the NBA, but I was also part of a national championship with Rick Pitino at the University of Kentucky, and another almost national championship where we lost in the national championship game in overtime. So I've been around from small college to big colleges and all over the map in the NBA. So I've had great mentors, which I think is vital for any coach at any level, at any age, to really seek out people that have been through it, not only in your sport, but other sports, business, education, wherever they think that they can hook into somebody that can really make a difference in their lives and their coaching lives, I think is very important.
You mentioned some of those mentors. I wanted to ask you about a coaching philosophy. If there was sort of any universal principles that you adhered to as a coach, or any things that you picked up from some of these mentors that you made sure that you carried with you. As a quick example, when I first got out of college, 22 years old, my first coaching job, the one thing that I took from the head coach, Gary Degenhart, was, the thing he emphasized over and over again was it doesn't take any ability. You don't have to be tall, fast, strong, whatever, to always have a great attitude and give a great effort. And that just sort of became a principle I tried to carry with me. Are there any similar things that you had?
Yeah, my first head coaching job, I kind of pointed to, I wanted to be a head coach at the college level when I was 30. So I ended up at Wheeling Jesuit University in Wheeling, West Virginia, in a 14-team league. And I was inheriting a team that had not won a game in the league before. They were 0-14 in total, 325. And soon after I got the job, I thought, oh my God, what did I get myself into? My career is going to end here. And at that time, Vince Lombardi was, a great football coach, and he was well written and had done a lot of speeches. And one in particular talked about excellence. If you really try to build excellence into your life in any field, then you're going to have a high quality life. But my problem was I didn't know what the hell excellence was, really. So I went on this kind of deep search for a mission statement, if you will, about coaching and what would it mean trying to turn this program around that jived with what excellence was. And I found an amazing in my search. I read everything about excellence in management. And Purdue of Purdue Chickens had a definition of excellence that I hooked onto. And it was the unlimited ability to improve the quality of what you have to offer. And the unlimited ability, day to day, as a coach, to improve what you had to offer, not only your team, but the people, the coaching staff around you, your family, your Lord. And that was kind of my guiding principle. And when I inherited this team, I asked two assistants that were left over from this horrible season before where they didn't win a game. And I said, I recruited two kids out of Philadelphia. We were watching our team pre-season, and I asked them, I said, where would we fit in the whole 14-team league from a talent standpoint? And one was on my right, one was on my left, and they said at the same exact time, dead last. So I had a team, and I had to build something, and I had what I had. So I built it. I told our team that, number one, things that we could control. We can't control where we are from a talent level, but we can control two things. One, we can be, out of 14 teams, excuse me, the best conditioned team in the whole league. We can attain that. And as a result, I said, I'm going to drive you guys at a level that there were 20 of them. And I quickly ended up with 11. And the ones that were still on our team are still some of my best friends in the world. And they said what I did from the standpoint of conditioning, they could only describe as abuse. I mean, I was brutal because I could work on them player development about their ball handling skills and their shooting skills, but I wanted them to know that whenever we hit the court, we put in more pain from a conditioning standpoint. And that was the number one thing. And number two thing was the unlimited ability to care for each other. That the bond that was so essential about great teams, I was going to, if I was going to manage anything, I was going to manage team chemistry. And they already had something to really connect them, which was their hatred of me from what I put them through conditioning-wise. But they developed a camaraderie that at the end of the year, not only did we succeed, but we ended up in the championship game and lost to an eventual national champion runner-up by 2 points. So we went from not winning a game to playing in the championship with the worst talent. And one of my opponents said to me, greatest compliment I've ever heard in my life, said, I've never seen a better team without any talent in my whole life. And it's because they were in great shape. And as a result of being in great shape and given more than anybody else in the league from a standpoint of conditioning, they got to a point where they refused to lose. So that's basically, in a nutshell, my philosophy.
Interesting.
Excellence, yeah.
So, I mean, that's great stuff, Coach. So it's interesting because you've been at all these various levels, from Wheeling to Kentucky to the Celtics. Do you find that the best players, regardless of level, I mean, again, you've coached some NBA legends. I mean, guys like Paul Pierce and Paul George and Allen Iverson, et cetera. Do you find that there's a common trait that the best players carry with them, throughout all these levels, whether it be a hatred of losing, a commitment to excellence, or just a passion for the game. I mean, what makes these, other than raw ability, what makes these elite players elite?
The best players that I coach, just when the lights came on, whether it's a 7:30 game and that ball went up, these guys were not going to be denied. So they had great confidence because they had worked their tails off to become great players. So when the lights came on, they were ready. And I'll give you an example. Patrick Ewing, who a lot of your listeners probably don't know a lot about. He was a player of the year at Georgetown, #1 draft pick for the New York Knicks. Hall of Fame guy. When we started practice, there wasn't a dry spot on his body to start practice. And that type of leadership carried over when the ball went up. Iverson, people always want to make comments about Allen Iverson, about, off the court activities and, who he was during his career. He was the type of competitor that Ewing, that Nowitzki, like Paul Pierce were, that when the lights came on, you wanted him on your side. But it's because they worked their butts off growing up, and they developed a skill set that was, elite, best in the world. And they were not going to be denied their chance at winning basketball games. And they left it all out on the court every game. So when you have your best players with that mindset, they can carry the whole team with them. And the other thing is that I always sit down with any player prior to the season, because I moved around a lot. And people say, was it hard to coach NBA players? You sit down man to man and you ask them how they want to be coached. Like Iverson said, look, I don't want to be coached through the media. If you have something to say to me, I don't want to read about it in the paper tomorrow morning. You have something to say it. And I asked every star and every player I ever coached, I said, how do you feel about being criticized in front of your whole team? It said, because I said, I want to find out your answer, because it's important that you be able to accept coaching. I'm not going to criticize you for anything that is going to be hurtful, but I'm going to criticize you about your game and what you're doing, what you're not doing. Can you handle that in a timeout with the game on the line, with the coach saying, Alan, Patrick, Dirk, Paul, what is going on? I mean, you're just you're not following the plan. And to the man, I'd never had one person say that they were unwilling to be criticized. And I think that's important from your best player to your least amount player. I know there are a lot of parents involved in sports now. And I think the parents, I would get, if I was coaching Ocean City High School, I'd get everybody from the freshman team to the senior team and just say to them, look, I'm going to try to build men on this team. And as a result of it, if you're wondering about playing time, ask your son or your daughter, because they will know why they're getting playing time and why they're not getting playing time, because I will communicate one-to-one on them at every step of the way.
Those are interesting conversations for sure with parents at a high school level, and they must be fascinating conversations with superstars at the level at which you're talking about. You mentioned the term development. You said these guys as they develop as players. I've had some interesting conversations with coaches over the years about that notion of player development. I think there are some coaches who feel as though there are certain aspects of a player's game that can improve from college to the pros. There are other aspects where you almost reach a point where like you can do it or you can't. For example, there's a lot of football coaches that believe with a quarterback, accuracy is not something that they can considerably improve once they reach a certain point. Do you find or did you find throughout your career that you could develop players even at the professional level to become better at a skill or just to become better basketball players in general? At what point does development stop, or does it never stop?
It never stops. It never stops. So one of my mentors was my father-in-law, Jack Ramsey, and he a Hall of Fame coach. And he said every player he has ever coached wants to improve, wants you to tell him how he can get better. And they want organization. That was his philosophy. And as I observed players throughout my career, that is exactly the truth. When I was at the University of Kentucky, as the associate head coach to Rick Pitino, in 1996, I mentioned we won the national championship, but we won the national championship for a reason. We had a bunch of NBA players on our team. But how much we improved. These guys all came out of school. They were heavily recruited. We had 11 NBA players that eventually played in the NBA. And Rick Pitino improved his player development at that level was so intense that our practices, when the whole team got together, almost seemed like a walk in the park to these guys. We had them, each guy, 4 days a week, and because the NCAA limited how much we could coach them, we had it down 4 days a week for 42-minute sessions. And when the clock started on that 42 minutes, they had to be stretched out on their own. They had to be sweating because our player development was so intense that we could see from week to week, month to month, the improvement that these guys made. And that's all the NBA is now. The NBA, people say, I see so many guys on the bench, all these coaches, it seems like you have this 15 people, behind the bench. It's all about player development. It's all about building the bodies to be able to handle hard work and to structure when you can in the NBA. You got to be careful of their bodies because they play so many games. But they want to improve, and you have to be, as the leader, organized to be able to teach them how they can improve and show them analytically their progress. So if you're talking about a quarterback, everybody, at every level is dealing with analytics right now. At the NBA, we had at one point in time with the 76ers, we had 20 PhDs that were analysts from MIT or Harvard, and they grinded out every little thing. It was almost overkill. But you can show players how they're improving, and they love to see improvement.
Interesting. Now, you also talk about preparing their bodies. It's an 82-game grind. Playoffs could add another 20-some games on. I mean, that's an unbelievably long season. And, football players like to, stick out their chests and be like, hey, nobody's tougher than football players, blah, blah, blah. But the NBA is an incredibly physical game as well. How do you prepare them just for the mental grind of this 82 game season plus a postseason, knowing that the wear and tear it's going to take on their bodies, the psychological discipline it's going to take for them to be focused throughout all of that? Was the mental part of coaching a huge element for you in the NBA?
It is everything in the NBA, just because of what you said, Coach. It's it starts in September. At training camp late in September, you have a month to get their bodies ready, some exhibition games, and then the 82 to anywhere, if you're really good, over 100 games is amazingly difficult. And the amount of not only conditioning and stretching and recovery and how to go about keeping their bodies healthy. And they're, at the end of the year, Coach, if you're playing 8 guys on a regular basis or 10 guys, everybody's banged up. There's nobody that's not banged up. There's nobody that is going to walk onto the court for a practice or a playoff game that isn't hurting. And part of it is, one of the great players of all time in the NBA is Jerry West from West Virginia. A great champion, a great player. And he said that he realized when he was a young man that if you're only going to show up and really bring it when you're feeling 100%, then there are not going to be many days that you're going to bring it. So you got to be willing, you got to want it enough that when you're hurting, you get your body ready before practice. You let the trainers stretch you out. But when that whistle blows, or the ball goes up, or the opening kickoff starts, you got to be ready to bring it. And no matter where you are, no matter what level you're playing or whatever, and part of the coach's job is to make them understand, is this a long season? You're damn right it is. Are you going to get banged up? You're damn right you're going to get banged up. Am I going to expect a lot of you? You betcha I am. But this is how we're going to help you. This is what we're going to do to make sure that you feel that we care for you enough to give you everything in the organization to make you a healthy athlete.
I really like, Coach, how you're talking a lot about your role as a coach being there to assist the players, because ultimately they're the ones who are obviously getting it done. I mean, it's unfortunate sometimes when I have a pet peeve, and my pet peeve is when I listen to football coaches talk about things and they'll say like my players, my offense, my this, because I've always thought to myself, it's not really yours. And as a head coach, I didn't invent the offense. They're not literally my players. My job is to help them, assist them, develop them the best I possibly can so that they can succeed. And I really like I haven't heard you say a single selfish thing. You talk so much about how can you as the coach help them in their process. That's incredibly important.
Well, I'm an old coach. Let's put it that way, Kevin. So I'm retired, and I can look back on things. And the interesting thing about basketball, and there might be some similarities to football, but I would always tell our players, and from the standpoint of managing a basketball team, is offense is not equal opportunity. I'm going to go to the best players. They're going to get more shots. I'm going to call more plays for them because I want to win. And so, everyone has to understand offensively, You might not be the high scorer, you might not get the most shots, but you are as integral part of winning offensively as a guy scoring. I mean, you got to screen for him, you got to pass. But on the defensive end, you don't have any faces. There are no superstars. Everybody's going to be held accountable at the same level for what we're doing defensively. So if somebody's not executing shifts, the proper defensive stance, not allowing the ball to get to the rim, you're going to hear from me. Offensively, I'm going to show favorites. I'm going to give the ball to the best player. Defensively, that's not the way it's going to be.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. You say show favorites, and that's a big thing with high school kids. Like favoritism and things being fair when kids are younger it's a big deal to them, because I think a lot of young people, they want the world to be a fair place. And I remember being asked one time if I played, like a kid was joking around. He was like, "Hey, coach, do you play favorites?" And I said, "I do." I said, "You know who my favorite players are? The guys who listen, you know, the guys who give me their best effort, right? The guy, obviously, when you're talking in the NBA, a guy who can score the ball, that's a reasonable person to play a favorite with." But I'll fall back on a John Wooden quote, and I'll get your opinion on this. I believe it's John Wooden, but he said, I don't believe that all players should be treated equally. I believe all players should be treated fairly. Is that a philosophy you subscribe to?
Absolutely. And when you get buy-in from everybody, as far as understanding, I'll give you an example. Paul Pierce, when I was coaching the Celtics, was a dominant scorer. Dominant. And we also had a guy that took a lot of heat about the way he played, was Antoine Walker, who we had at Kentucky, and then we had Boston. And, people looked at him as a gunner. He needed his shots. But we turned things around with the Boston Celtics when Antoine Walker realized that Paul Pierce was the bread and butter of our team. And we'd be running down the court. I might call a play, and Antoine Walker would turn around and lift up his fist, which was get the damn ball to Paul Pierce on the left side and get out of his way. And so he had a feel for the game. And because he had a feel for a game, I would let players who understood the game and understood the hot hand or what we needed to do, I would let them overrule me at any level coming down the court. Point guard or somebody like Antoine Walker that really had an understanding of how we were going to win this close game.
Coach, I'll get you out of here on this. This has been a really interesting conversation. I wanted to ask you about this, though, before we go. Long career at many levels. When you look back on it all, how do you want your players to remember you? Like, what would you like to think that your legacy will be?
That I was fair, and whatever toughness that I showed them, even though they might not have felt it during the time that I was coaching them, that in the long run, it benefited them. That the excellence that we try to bring to them benefited them not only in their career, but maybe in the long run in their life. So that I was fair. The criticism was fair. The grind of conditioning was needed. And we were always prepared. We were always organized. And we wanted always the best for them. And if they weren't given it, they heard about it. And hopefully that was okay also in the long run.
Right. Well, Coach, again, this was really interesting, and congratulations on a tremendous career. I'm sure you're still involved in the basketball world in a lot of different ways. I know you've been a media personality. Are you still doing any kind of media work?
Kevin, I am not involved in anything athletically.
Okay.
No basketball. I'm not interested in media. I do not. I don't want somebody to tell me I have to be in the studio at any time. I want to be able to walk on the beach and hang out with my family. And I have friends that are still coaching, like I follow Rick Pitino's team. Kevin Willer, who is my assistant with the Celtics. Now he's at, Villanova. Frank Vogel, who's still in the NBA with the Dallas Mavericks in some capacity. I follow those guys. I want them to do well. Obviously, my alma mater, St. Joe's University. I care about their basketball program. And I find it difficult to watch basketball simply because I hate to see what coaches have to go through when they lose. It's hard. Yeah. I believe that what Scotty Scheffler said, golfer, he said, I don't understand why I'm so competitive. I want to win everything, but it lasts for 2 minutes. But the losing kills you. And so that's why I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah. And the social media world has made it all the more challenging, obviously.
I don't care for it. Thank you.
Well, Coach, thanks so much. This was a blast, and I really appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure, Coach. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right, so for Jim OBrien, this is Coach Kevin Smith on the Call Sheet Daily. Join me again tomorrow as we ramp up towards me heading out to Pittsburgh to cover Pittsburgh Steelers training camp. That'll be later in the week. Until then, hope everybody has a great day.